Welcome to Java 8 Interface Improvement session. In this session, we'll see what are the new methods are introduced in Java 8 and why they have introduced. Let's see. I'm having a interface called UPI payment. In this, I have three different methods. One is do payment and credit and debit. This interface is implementing by three different classes. One is Google Pay, and the second one is Phone Pay, and the third one is Paytm. So this interface is implemented by three different classes: Phone Pay, Paytm, and Google Pay. If you see this do pay, credit and debit, these methods are there. They have their own implementations in their respected classes. Let us see if we added some abstract method, like we can say void print passbook. If you add any new method into the interface, it will affect the three respected all the implementation classes. It is showing three related errors because it is implementing this UPI payment is implementing Phone Pay, Paytm, Google Pay. What it is showing, we have to override this method in all the respected implementations. Consider if you are having this UPI payment is implemented by around 15 to 100 implementation classes. That time we have to implement in the all the respected implementation classes. In such cases, we cannot have control over the classes also. So to avoid that problem, Java API developers come up with a solution, and they have introduced two new methods called default default and static methods. Default and static methods they have introduced in Java 8. What is the benefit of this default methods means? They are introduced to add extra features to the current interfaces without disturbing the existing implementations. Let us add some this method, or let us add this passbook method only, and see, we will make it as default and default, and we will give some implementation to it. See, if you add default methods in it, it is not disturbing the existing implementations. That is the reason they have introduced default methods in Java 8 for interfaces. We can create the static methods also. Static void validate account something. So from Java 8 onwards, interfaces can allow default and static methods. You no need to implement this default methods in any of the implementation classes. If you want to override, we can able to do that. In Java, a class can extend only one class but can implement multiple interfaces. With the introduction of default methods, it is possible that your class inherit multiple methods with same signature. In such scenarios, to solve the conflict, Java 8 specifies three rules to follow. What are the rules? Let us see what are the rules. For that purpose, we have created sample code already. So we have created interface 1 with the method 1, and interface 2 extending the interface 1, and we have created a class implementing interface 1 and interface 2, and we have override the method 1, and we have created the class 2 and extending the class 1 and implementing the interface 1 and interface 2. In this main method we have created a object for this class 2 and we are calling the method 1. In this scenario, this m1 method, which m1 method it will calls, we have to see. Let us run this one and see. In this case we are getting method 1 from class 1. That means if your class is inherited multiple methods with the same signature, then then also if it is extending a class, that time it will be choose the immediate superclass method. That means rule number 1 is select a that means rule number 1 is select class over interfaces. Select class over interfaces. Let us see the second scenario. If you have interface 1 and it is having method 1, interface 2 extending the interface 1, and we have overridden the method m1, and we have overridden the method m1, and we have a class 1 and implementing the interface 1 and interface 2. In this situation, let us see how it will behave. Let us create object for class 1. Class 1 c1 is equals to class 1 new class 1 new class 1. If you call this c1 dot method 1, let us see what this method will runs. This method is printing method 1 from interface 2. Method 1 from interface 2. Even though our class is implementing interface 1 and interface 2, if both methods are having same method signature, it is calling the this interface 2 method. That means if your class does not extend any class, that means if your class it is not extending any class and inherit multiple methods with the same signature from multiple interfaces which belongs to the same hierarchy, then a method from most specific interface is selected. The rule number 2 specifies select most specific interface than general interface. Select most specific interface. Select most specific interface then general interface. Let us see the third scenario. If we have interface 1 and it is implementing the method 1, and interface 2 it is not extending any interface, that means both are having different hierarchy, and it is implementing and it is having default method 1 in the same signature, and we don't want this one. Let us clear this one. And our class is and we have a class c1 and implementing the interface 1 and interface 2. In this scenario, now this class c1 is giving error because if your class is not extending any class and inherit multiple methods with the same signature from multiple interfaces which is not belongs to the same hierarchy, that time we have to override that method within the class, and we have to explicitly call the which interface method we wants to call. Public void method 1. So inside we have to specify which interface we want to call. If we want to call interface 1 method, then interface 1 dot super dot method 1. Now if you call this method, it will calls the interface 1 method. Now we are able to see interface 1 is calling. Now if you want to call interface 2 method, that time you have to define in the interface 2 Let us run this one. So it is calling method 1 from the method 2. That is the rule number 3. That is the rule number 3. Interface name dot super dot method name. This is the rule number 3. Will give apparent so that it will. Yeah, these are all the conflicts, and Java introduces these rules to solve that conflicts. So far we have seen why default methods are introduced in Java 8. Let us see why static methods are introduced in Java 8. Java API developers before Java 8, they are following a pattern called supplying a utility class along with an interface to perform basic operations on such objects. But from Java 8, they break this pattern and they introduce the static methods into the interfaces. With this introduction of static methods in interfaces, such utility classes will disappear and methods to perform basic operations will be kept as static methods inside the interface itself. This is the reason they have added default and static methods inside the interfaces. This is all about this video. Hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.